Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey chapter 355. It is the last day of the week, aka the Big Bang Attack workout. I'm feeling very good right now, a little tired, but it is what it is. Anyways, to the main subject matter for today. Teased in the last episode, which you can see right here, about the tourist, we are now talking about gatekeepers, or gatekeeping, aka gatekeeping is good. The main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because this has been something that I've kind of teased upon many a time in this channel, and that is the fact that gatekeeping is good. I think that a lot of people have thought of the idea of gatekeeping not being so good, but in the sense that it is good for a lot of different reasons, that I will go into. I will start with this. I think that more things should, in theory, be gate-kept. I think that we have released the veil a little too much on a little too many things. I think more people have wanted to work out how things work behind the scenes of certain things, and thus has kind of made it so the magic of certain things have kind of dissipated. I'll give you a perfect example of this. Wrestling. Wrestling was a highly regarded secret as to how they did what they did. Now, it wasn't a secret amongst those people, but it used to be a secret from the general crowd versus what they were doing. Because at a certain point, that's how they got their money. It is an act that they show to the other people that they want the audience to believe. Now, obviously, things have changed. The internet has made it so people know what's going on and the ins and outs. There have always been sources for the behind the scenes stuff, but the luster and the magic that it once had back in the day is gone because you can see right through it. You don't necessarily, the illusion of what's going on is revealed to the entire world, so thus the magic that it once held can no longer be held. And this isn't the only thing. We're going to get into a bunch of other places because it's not just hobbies, but it's also entertainment, and as well as things even like at the gym, technically. Things that are everywhere that you would think, what? Yeah, there are things that should be gate kept at a certain point because, of course, we'll get into why later on, I think. But for now, I'll say that if the thing, let's say in this case wrestling, loses the magic that it once had, it's hard to recover from that. And in theory, wrestling hasn't recovered from that. Wrestling's gotten big, but not necessarily as big as it once was. Cultural milestones. Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock. 3 cultural milestones, 2 of which were purely wrestlers, and one was kind of an actor, and then the other became an actor and thus kind of exceeded out from the wrestling realm. But the magic that was once compelling about wrestling and would get people to go see it is no longer there. And it's a very unfortunate thing because the gatekeepers were, well, eliminated, basically. Well, there are a lot of different factors that went into that. The wrestling, there's an industry just to find out the behind the scenes stuff about this type of things. So they exist, but that's just like one little tiny example of what can happen if the things aren't gate kept. And you can obviously see the difference in the popularity of something like wrestling, where it is a fraction of what it once was. So we'll talk more about that. A few other things, because obviously I'm going to have to defend gatekeeping this entire video. But we'll talk about that and a few other things when we get to Mother Base. All right, so started this day off with single arm lat pull down, which was pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. Gatekeeping. Or gatekeeping is good. The main reason why I want to discuss this is because as a two-parter, this has been something that's been on the mind for quite some time. I know for a fact that many people do not like gatekeeping, and understandably so in a certain sense. There is a weird elitism that comes to it for those who are usually the gatekeepers. But at the same time, gatekeeping is a necessary thing. I think that a lot of people don't want to admit that, because that just means that you're going to have to admit that there are others that want to keep whatever subculture the same, which is a very weird thing to think about, because it means being exclusionary. But at the same time, you have to be exclusionary on most things, because if you don't, there is a whole host of issues that come along because of it. Now, the first and foremost, and this is the major thing, is that it keeps the culture intact. It keeps making sure that things will stay the same and won't change for the worse, because realistically, more change that comes in, the worse that things can become. And I know there are a lot of people that would say, oh, that's not necessarily accurate, that some people can come in and change the culture for the better. But usually, most of the people who do this, when it comes to these types of things, come at it with a level of respect firsthand. That's the big difference. And I think that everybody kind of understands this inherently, but doesn't want to really think about it like that. Their ego won't allow them to understand that a lot of people who end up becoming the change that they want to see come in a humble sense, because they have been successfully filtered because of the old gatekeepers. And that's the entire point, right? You want to make sure that there are people set in place in order to make sure that the things stay relatively the same. So then those that are tourists or who have bad intentions stay away. And I think a lot of people don't want to say that, because then they get the whatever base that they can inside of them, and thus growing their own little niche thing. But they don't realize that they're enabling bad actors to come in and make things 10 times worse for the entire subculture. And it doesn't matter where it is or what it is, but this always happens. And you could see how the more people join something, the more it becomes distilled and diluted, and thus making the center point of what it once was worse. You can look at something as big as, let's say, Christianity. The largest religion in the world has been something that has been diluted, and all sorts of just like bastardization because of all the sects, all the little styles of Christianity that have popped up and arisen because of one divergent thing or another, where it's not even anything close to what it once was, because it once was just one type of Christianity. Now it's all different types with all different rules everywhere, and there's so many of them that it's not even the same or even close to the same thing, even though they all technically look at the same Bible. But even then, that's different. And that's just a major example of this. But you can see in other examples where you have people infiltrate the community that aren't good people. They aren't necessarily for the culture, or bringing their own malevolent nature to the culture, which gives the entire rest of the culture a bad name. I'm going to use an example, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't like these people, which is furries. Furries are not good. I don't like furries. I'm not a furry person. But at the same time, furries have not done well on gatekeeping, because they've brought in all the terrible people with them. So because of those terrible people, they have given furries a bad name. And it's even worse when you have those who are also into it with real animals, because they are also part of that. And they never decided to filter those people out. And that's just a baseline example of things getting to an extreme, of course. But the thing is the same. Without the gatekeeping, they didn't filter those people out. And because of that, now their entire thing is just a disgusting center or corner of degeneracy that is nothing but filth. But at least it could have been something. It could have been a weird niche thing, yes, but it could have been not as bad as it is now because nobody decided, hey, maybe we should get these people out of here. You should be gone. And I get why people don't like it. I understand why that there is a pushback on it, but it's necessary. It has to happen. If it doesn't happen, then people will come and ruin things. They will use their ego to set others aside and tell them to fuck off because they know best for some stupid reason. It's insane to me that people will do this type of stuff over and over again. We see the consequences of not gatekeeping things over and over again. But for some reason, people want to think that weird, inclusivity in activities is somehow a great way in order to get people to come along, when they don't realize that by doing that, you are basically submitting to those who have stronger wills than you to allow them to impose their will on the culture, thus changing it from the inside out. And then all of a sudden you wonder, why is this one thing that I loved so much now suck? It's because you allowed the people who want just power and they aren't actually there for the thing itself to take over. And it's as simple as that. All across the board. It doesn't matter what you're into. It doesn't matter what the subculture is. Hell, even regular culture. It doesn't matter. You see this all the time. And for some reason, nobody wants to say, hey, fuck you, you don't belong here. Name 3 songs, you asshole. And of course there's stupid shit like that, but it makes sense to have something like that. It makes it so stupid shit isn't allowed. Now, of course, if you come in with a level of humbleness and you eat humble pie and you understand that you want to indulge in the nature of the culture, people will understand that. If you submit to the culture of itself and then try to proceed from there, people will allow you to come. It's as simple as that. Hell, in the gym, the only thing that you have to do is be there. That's the literal gatekeeping, just going consistently. That's all that's needed. Everything else after that, it's like a minute detail here and there or whatever, but the going itself is the filter. These filters are necessary, and I'm tired of people trying to say that, oh, we should allow people to do whatever they want. Of course, at a certain point, yeah, sure, whatever. But by doing that, understand that you're diluting what you want. It's like somebody saying, I'm super into computers. And then you ask them, what do you recommend for a GPU? And they say, what's a GPU? Are you shitting me? What are you talking about? Know something before you claim to be about something. And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped. We also have none. I got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. Gatekeeping is good. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this, and it's been on my mind forever, really, is because I have seen enough in this world that have been ruined because of the lack of gatekeeping. What happens a lot of times when people get into interests, doesn't matter what type of interest, but interests in general, usually they will pervert the interest because of their tourist-like sensationalism and or the idea of trying to change it to suit their needs rather than the needs of the culture they are going into, and thus they ruin it and make it so everything gets dumbed down and bastardized and destroyed, more likely than not. There are many examples of this where people reveal a little too much of how things are going on or don't like how it's going on, so I'm going to fix it. And by fix it, I mean completely ruin it so it's never the same again. And it's usually like that with people that are narcissistic that come in and or are tourists in said thing, regardless of what it is. They're always there. And unfortunately, these are the worst types of people because they take over things for some reason or another, because for some reason people listen to them. I don't know what it is that these people do in order to trick these other people into thinking that what they have to say is actually anything of smartness or anything like that. I understand why people would hate the idea of gatekeepers, like, oh, we should be more inclusive. We should allow things to come in. People, people deserve the experience. Yeah, but there are certain barriers to entry that everybody should have to go through because you have to be about it if you are going into it. Making things easier is not going to make things better. I think that's universal across the board. We are seeing the consequences of making everything so easy with the education system nowadays and everything else, where people are now who are getting participation trophies are not entering the workforce because they can't do shit. I mean, we are dealing with the consequences of these things, but people don't want to open their eyes and realize that gatekeeping is there for a reason and we have to keep it going. Yeah, there are annoying things like you're wearing a band shirt, name 3 songs. Sure, that's a little stupid, but also the joke is underlyingly kind of true. Why are you wearing this? Do you know what this represents? You know, that's the fundamental point that the entire thing is making. People recently, I saw a post about like a System of a Down concert and how they were talking to the audience about like something like, you know, a political message, right? Because that's their music, but nobody in the audience really got it. They were just cheering along, but like, you know, it was kind of like a zombie cheer. And it's like, yeah, that's what happens when you don't gatekeep. Sure, the money is good, but you don't realize that you're letting anybody come in and they don't even know what the fuck you're talking about or what the message is. That's why things become lame as fuck, or even worse, when they lose the messaging and lose the plot entirely and just become utter garbage. You can see many examples of that. Star Wars is an example that's easily showed because it was perverted by the disgusting freaks at Disney who made it all about profit rather than actual storytelling. But that's a whole other subject for a whole other day. I still hate that franchise. But that's an example of a perversion of bringing the gatekeeping down in order to allow more people, and then making the thing worse and milking it dry until it's dead. But, you know, that's usually what happens. And most of the time, people are too afraid to put up the gates, the barriers in order to get in. Even something like the gym, the barrier to get in is consistency. No matter where you are, no matter what you do, drugs, no drugs, it doesn't matter. If you are in the fitness realm, literally the one thing that stays consistent through all advice, all levels of training, all people's training styles. It doesn't matter what they're lifting, where they lift, with the access to what they're lifting, calisthenics, powerlifting, bodybuilding, weightlifting, just generally. The one thing that they all have is consistency. And with that is the barrier to entry when it comes to the gym in particular. That is the ultimate gatekeeper. Doesn't matter which of the things that you do, if you aren't consistent, that's what makes people stay either a newbie or advance into an intermediate or advanced stage, because they consistently do it for X amount of years or whatever it is. But that's the thing. There are natural barriers and gatekeepers that we have to keep around regardless, because if we do not keep them, people are going to enter it and pollute it with their bullshit. So, whenever you see somebody say, hey, nice band shirt, name 3 songs, don't make fun of them because they're being kind of retarded, because it is kind of retarded. But understand that they are actually doing something that's important, and understand that, because I think a lot of people don't want to understand that because they want a low barrier to entry to anything. And I think if you are like that, you are the reason why things are going bad, because you have no backbone and cannot allow people to live their own lives. You have to join for some reason whatever they are doing. So fuck you. But anyways, with that being said, tell me what you think in the comments section down below. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. I have had this thought for the longest time because it's quite literally been such an issue for years, probably decades now at this point. I've seen video games basically collapse because they did not do gatekeeping well, but that's kind of a different subject for a different day. I'll go off on that entire tangent. But with that being said, please leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Stay safe out there. Stay cool. Keep it heavy, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.